I never thought I'd find love on a damn website meant for work. But there I was, Caroline Mitchell, event planner extraordinaire, scrolling through pages of potential venues for my next big gig when a pop-up ad caught my eye. "Find your perfect match," it screamed at me. I should have closed it immediately, but something made me click. Maybe it was the 3 glasses of wine I'd had, or the fact that I'd just turned 34 and was still painfully single. Whatever the reason, I found myself creating a profile, my fingers flying over the keyboard as I described myself. "Blonde workaholic seeks someone to drag me away from my laptop." I didn't expect much. Hell, I didn't even know what I was looking for. But then, as if the universe decided to throw me a curveball, I saw her profile. Photographer with an eye for beauty, seeking someone to capture my heart. The words were cheesy as hell, but the photo. Damn. Dark hair cascading over one shoulder, piercing green eyes that seemed to look right through the screen. I couldn't stop staring. Before I knew it, I'd sent a message. "Your profile caught my eye. Wanna chat?" I didn't expect a response, but within minutes, my screen lit up. "Well, hello there, Miss Workaholic. Glad I could distract you from your spreadsheets." And just like that, I was hooked. We spent hours chatting that night about everything and nothing. She was witty, sharp, and seemed to get me in a way no one else ever had. When I finally dragged myself to bed at 3 a.m., I felt like a teenager with a crush. The next few weeks were a blur of messages, late-night calls, and an ever-growing feeling that I was falling for someone I'd never even met. We shared our dreams, our fears, our most embarrassing moments. I told her things I'd never told anyone, not even my sister Diana or my best friend Marcus. "I've never felt this way about anyone," I admitted one night, my heart pounding as I typed the words, "let alone a woman." Her response came quickly. Sometimes the heart knows what it wants before the mind catches up. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Here I was, Caroline Mitchell, always in control, always with a plan, diving headfirst into uncharted waters. But every message, every laugh we shared, made me feel more alive than I had in years. As the weeks turned into months, the urge to meet her in person grew stronger. We'd exchanged dozens of photos, but it wasn't enough. I wanted to see her smile in real time, to hear her laugh without the distortion of a phone line. "We should meet," I finally said during one of our late-night calls. "I'm tired of imagining what it would be like to kiss you." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for so long I thought I'd lost the connection. Then finally, "Okay, let's do it." We made plans to meet at a local karaoke bar the following weekend. As I hung up the phone, a mix of excitement and terror coursed through my veins. In just a few days, I'd be face-to-face with the woman who'd turned my world upside down. Little did I know, the real shock was yet to come. The woman I thought I knew, the one I'd been falling for over the past 3 months, was about to reveal a truth that would shake the very foundation of what I thought I knew about love, friendship, and myself. As I picked out my outfit for our first date, I had no idea that my life was about to change forever. The stage was set for a revelation that would either be the beginning of something beautiful or the end of the most intense connection I'd ever felt. The karaoke bar was packed when I arrived, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I'd spent hours getting ready, settling on a blue dress that brought out my eyes and heels that made my legs look a mile long. As I scanned the crowd, I realized I had no idea who I was looking for. We'd shared photos, sure, but in this sea of faces, would I even recognize her? I made my way to the bar, ordering a gin and tonic to calm my nerves. As I sipped, I checked my phone for the 100th time. No messages. She was supposed to be here by now. "Next up, we have Sienna Ray," the MC announced, and I nearly choked on my drink. Sienna Ray? That couldn't be right. That was the name of my childhood best friend, the girl I'd spent every summer with until we drifted apart after high school. But it couldn't be her, could it? I turned towards the stage, my jaw dropping as a woman with long black hair stepped up to the mic. She was stunning, all curves and confidence in a tight red dress. But it was her eyes that caught me, piercing green just like in the photos, just like Sienna's had always been. As she began to sing, her voice rich and soulful, memories flooded back. Summers spent chasing fireflies, secrets whispered under blanket forts. The way Sienna had always looked at me like I was the most fascinating person in the world. How had I not seen it before? The pieces started falling into place. The inside jokes that seemed too familiar, the stories that resonated too deeply. All this time, I'd been falling for my childhood best friend, without even realizing it. As Sienna belted out the final notes of her song, our eyes locked across the room. The recognition was instant, mutual, and earth-shattering. My online lover and my long-lost friend were one and the same. She made her way through the crowd, her eyes never leaving mine. When she reached me, neither of us spoke for a long moment. Then, "Hey Care Bear," she said softly, using the nickname she'd given me when we were kids. "Sienna," I breathed, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. "What the hell is going on?" She took a deep breath. "I can explain everything, but not here. Can we go somewhere quiet?" I nodded, still in shock, and followed her out of the bar. We ended up in a small park nearby, sitting on a bench under the stars. The night air was cool against my flushed skin. "I'm sorry," Sienna started, her voice trembling slightly. "I never meant to deceive you. When I saw your profile on that site, I couldn't believe it. I'd been trying to find a way to reconnect with you for years, and suddenly there you were." "So you pretended to be someone else?" I asked, anger starting to bubble up. "Do you have any idea how messed up that is?" Sienna flinched at my words. "I know, I've been in love with you since we were teenagers, Caroline. I was too scared to tell you then. And when I saw your profile, I thought maybe if you got to know me without the baggage of our history, you might feel the same way." Her confession hit me like a ton of bricks. All those years, all those lingering looks and lingering touches. How had I been so blind? "Why didn't you just tell me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Because I was terrified of losing you," Sienna replied, tears glistening in her eyes. "And then I did anyway, when we drifted apart after high school. Finding you again felt like a second chance. I screwed it up, again." I sat there trying to process everything. The woman I'd fallen for online was real, she was here, and she was Sienna. The girl who'd been my other half for so many years, who apparently had been harboring feelings for me all this time. "I don't know what to say," I finally managed. "I'm angry that you lied to me, but I'm also... God, Sienna, do you know how much I've missed you?" Before I could think better of it, I leaned in and kissed her. It was impulsive, fueled by a cocktail of confusion, anger, and long-buried desire. Her lips were soft, tasting faintly of cherry lip gloss, just like they had that one summer night when we were 16 and decided to practice kissing. When we broke apart, we were both breathing heavily. "Care," Sienna whispered, her hand cupping my cheek. "I'm so sorry, for everything. But I'm not sorry for loving you. I never could be." I stood up abruptly, my mind reeling. "I need time to think," I said. It's too much. I need to go." As I walked away, leaving Sienna on that bench, I could feel her eyes on me. I was walking away from my past and possibly my future, and I had no idea what came next. All I knew was that nothing would ever be the same again. I spent the next week in a daze, oscillating between anger, confusion, and an undeniable longing. Sienna had tried to reach out multiple times, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. How could I face her after everything that had happened? It was Marcus, my ever-patient gay best friend, who finally snapped me out of it. "Caroline, darling," he said over brunch, "you've been moping for days. Either call the girl or burn her number. But for the love of God, do something." I knew he was right, but the thought of confronting Sienna terrified me. It wasn't just about the deception. It was about facing feelings I'd buried so deep I hadn't even known they existed. Finally, after another sleepless night, I texted her, "We need to talk. My place, 7 p.m. The hours crawled by. When my doorbell rang at exactly 7, my heart leapt into my throat. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door. Sienna stood there, looking both beautiful and terrified. "Hi," she said softly. I stepped aside to let her in, the familiar scent of her perfume bringing back a flood of memories. We stood awkwardly in my living room, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. "Why?" I finally blurted out. "Why did you lie to me for months instead of just telling me who you were?" Sienna's eyes filled with tears. "Because I'm a coward," she whispered. "Because I've been in love with you since we were kids, and I was terrified of losing you again." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "You've been in love with me all this time?" She nodded, a sad smile on her face. "Remember that summer before senior year, when we got drunk on stolen wine and ended up skinny dipping in the lake?" I did remember. It was one of those perfect teenage nights, full of laughter and stars and the feeling that anything was possible. You looked at me that night, Sienna continued, and I thought maybe you felt it too. But then you started dating Brad, and I figured I'd imagined it all. The memory of that night came flooding back, the way Sienna's skin had glowed in the moonlight, how I'd felt an unfamiliar flutter in my stomach when she'd smiled at me. I'd pushed those feelings aside, too scared to examine them closely. I didn't imagine it, I said quietly. I didn't know what to do with it, so I ignored it. Sienna took a step closer. And now? Do you still want to ignore it? I looked at her, really looked at her. This was Sienna, my childhood best friend, the woman I'd fallen for online, the person who knew me better than anyone else in the world. No, I whispered. I don't want to ignore it anymore. Before I could second-guess myself, I closed the distance between us and kissed her. It was different from our kiss in the park, less frantic, more exploratory. Her hands came up to tangle in my hair, and I found myself pressing closer, wanting to erase any space between us. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing heavily. Wow, Sienna murmured, her forehead resting against mine. Yeah, I agreed, a little dazed. Wow. We spent the rest of the evening talking, really talking, about our fears, our hopes, the years we'd spent apart. As the night wore on, I found myself falling even deeper for the woman in front of me. But as Sienna was getting ready to leave, reality came crashing back in. What are we doing, Si? I asked, suddenly panicked. I've never been with a woman before. And you lied to me for months. How can we build something real on that foundation? Sienna's face fell, but she nodded. I know, I messed up big time. But Caroline, what I feel for you, what we could have together, it's worth fighting for. If you'll let me, I'll spend every day trying to regain your trust. I wanted to believe her. God, how I wanted to. But the rational part of my brain was screaming caution. I need time, I said finally, to figure out what I want, what this means for my life. Can you give me that? Sienna looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded. Of course, whatever you need. As she left, I felt like I was being torn in two. Part of me wanted to call her back, to dive headfirst into whatever this was between us. But the other part, the part that had always played it safe, was terrified. I spent that night tossing and turning, replaying every moment with Sienna in my mind. From our childhood summers, to our online chats, to that earth-shattering kiss, I knew I was standing on the edge of something life-changing. The question was, did I have the courage to take the leap? As dawn broke, I made a decision. I didn't know where this thing with Sienna would lead, but I knew I couldn't walk away without finding out. Whatever came next, it was going to be one hell of a ride. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions and memories. Sienna and I had agreed to take things slow, to rebuild our friendship before diving into anything more. But being around her brought back a flood of feelings I'd long suppressed. I found myself remembering moments from our shared past, seeing them in a new light, like the time we snuck out to watch a meteor shower and ended up falling asleep in each other's arms, or the way Sienna's eyes would linger on me when she thought I wasn't looking. Remember that time we tried to bake a cake for your mom's birthday? Sienna asked one evening as we sat in my living room, sharing a bottle of wine. I laughed, the memory vivid. God, what a disaster. We nearly burned down the kitchen. But your mom loved it anyway, Sienna said softly. She always made me feel like I belonged. The wistful note in her voice made my heart ache. I reached out and took her hand without thinking. You did belong, Si. You still do. Our eyes met, and for a moment, I thought she might kiss me. Instead, she squeezed my hand and changed the subject. But the electric tension between us remained, a constant undercurrent to our interactions. As we navigated this new terrain of our relationship, life threw us another curveball. My boss assigned me to plan a major LGBTQ fundraising event, and guess who he wanted as the photographer? None other than Sienna Ray. It'll be great exposure for both of you, he said, oblivious to the panic rising in my chest. Caroline, you'll handle the logistics, and Sienna, you'll capture the spirit of the event. I want this to be our best fundraiser yet. And just like that, our careful dance of rekindling friendship while exploring new feelings was complicated by a professional collaboration. Our first planning meeting was awkward, to say the least. We sat across from each other in my office, trying to maintain a professional demeanor while the air crackled with unspoken tension. "So," I said, my voice unnaturally high, "I was thinking we could do a Roaring Twenties theme. Glitz, glamour, and a celebration of self-expression." Sienna nodded, her green eyes intense. "That could work. We could set up photo booths with period costumes, really let people get into character." As we brainstormed, I found myself relaxing. This was familiar territory. Sienna and I had always worked well together, our ideas bouncing off each other and evolving into something greater than either of us could have created alone. But then she leaned across the table to point something out on the venue layout, and her hand brushed mine. A jolt of electricity shot through me, and suddenly I was hyper-aware of her proximity, the scent of her perfume, the way her lips moved as she spoke. "Care? You okay?" Sienna's voice snapped me back to reality. "Yeah, sorry," I mumbled, feeling a blush creep up my neck. "Just lost in thought." She gave me a knowing look but didn't push it. As the meeting wrapped up, I couldn't help but wonder how we were going to get through this project without combusting from the tension between us. The next few weeks were a delicate balancing act. By day we were consummate professionals, throwing ourselves into making the fundraiser a success. But in the quiet moments, a shared glance across a crowded room, a lingering touch as we passed each other papers, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, simultaneously terrified and exhilarated by the prospect of falling. It all came to a head one night as we were working late, finalizing the seating arrangements. The office was empty except for us, the silence broken only by the soft clicks of my mouse as I moved names around on the screen. "Hey, Care?" Sienna's voice was soft, tentative. I looked up to find her standing much closer than I'd realized. "Yeah?" "I've been thinking," she said, her eyes searching mine. "About us, about what we could be." My heart began to race. "See, I know we said we'd take it slow," she continued, taking another step closer. "But being around you every day, working together like this, it's driving me crazy. I want you, Caroline, all of you." Before I could respond, she closed the distance between us and kissed me. It was nothing like our previous kisses. This was raw, passionate, years of pent-up desire finally breaking free. I found myself responding with equal fervor, my hands tangling in her hair as I pulled her closer. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless. "Wow," I whispered, echoing our words from that night in my apartment. Sienna laughed softly, resting her forehead against mine. "Yeah. Wow." As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, I knew we'd crossed a line we couldn't come back from. Whatever happened next, things between Sienna and me would never be the same. Part of me was terrified, but a bigger part, the part that had been slowly awakening since that first online chat, was thrilled. For the first time in my life, I was following my heart instead of my head. And as I looked into Sienna's eyes, shining with love and hope, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together. The fundraiser was still weeks away, and we had a lot of work to do. But as Sienna and I left the office that night, hand in hand, I felt like I was stepping into a new chapter of my life, one filled with uncertainty, yes, but also with the promise of love, adventure, and the chance to finally be my true self. The weeks leading up to the fundraiser were a blur of stolen kisses, late nights, and an ever-growing sense that I was living in a dream. Sienna and I tried to keep things professional at work, but it was getting harder by the day. Every accidental brush of hands, every shared glance across the conference room, sent shivers down my spine. "We need to focus," I'd say, trying to sound stern as Sienna nuzzled my neck in the supply closet. "I am focused," she'd murmur, her lips ghosting over my skin. "Focused on you." It was intoxicating, this newfound intimacy. But as the event drew closer, whispers started to circulate. I caught snippets of conversations that would abruptly stop when I entered a room. Sidelong glances and knowing smirks from coworkers. "Care, people are talking," Marcus warned me over coffee one morning. "You and Sienna aren't exactly subtle." I felt a flush creep up my neck. "We're just friends working on a project together." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Honey, friends don't look at each other the way you two do. It's like watching a volcano about to erupt." I knew he was right, but I wasn't ready to face the implications. My whole life I'd been Caroline Mitchell, straight-laced, predictable, safe. The idea of coming out, of embracing this new part of myself publicly, was terrifying. Things came to a head during a meeting with Helen, our conservative client for the fundraiser. She was eyeing the proposed guest list with a frown. "I'm not sure about some of these individuals," she said, her lips pursed. "We want to attract donors, not scare them off." I felt Sienna stiffen beside me. "These individuals are respected members of the LGBTQ community," she said, her voice tight. "They're exactly who should be at an event like this." Helen's eyes narrowed. "And what would you know about it? You're not one of them, are you?" The room fell silent. I could feel everyone's eyes on us, waiting to see how we'd respond. Sienna opened her mouth, fire in her eyes, but I beat her to it. "Actually, Helen," I heard myself say, "we both are." The words hung in the air, and I felt a moment of panic. What had I done? But then I felt Sienna's hand slip into mine under the table, and suddenly, I didn't care about the consequences. Helen left in a huff, muttering about finding a more appropriate event planner. As the door slammed behind her, I turned to face my colleagues, bracing for their reactions. To my surprise, most of them were smiling. "About damn time," my boss said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Now, let's make this the best damn fundraiser this city has ever seen." The relief was overwhelming. As we threw ourselves back into planning, I felt lighter than I had in years, but I knew the hardest conversation was yet to come. That night, I invited my sister Diana over for dinner. As we sat at my kitchen table, the words I'd been rehearsing all day stuck in my throat. "Di," I finally managed, "I have something to tell you." She looked up from her pasta, concern in her eyes. "What is it, Care? Are you okay?" I took a deep breath. I'm in a relationship with Sienna." Diana's fork clattered to her plate. "Sienna? As in your childhood friend Sienna? But you're not gay." "I don't know what I am," I admitted. "All I know is that I love her. She makes me happier than I've ever been." The silence that followed felt endless. Then, to my shock, Diana started to laugh. "Oh, Caroline," she said, wiping tears from her eyes. "I always wondered why you never seemed truly happy with any of your boyfriends. This actually makes so much sense." As relief washed over me, I felt tears spring to my eyes. Diana rounded the table and pulled me into a tight hug. "I love you, sis," she whispered, "no matter who you love." Later that night, as I lay in bed recounting the day's events to Sienna over the phone, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. "I'm proud of you, Care," Sienna said softly. "I know how scary that must have been." "It was," I admitted, "but it also felt right, like I'm finally being true to myself." As we said our goodnights, I couldn't help but smile. The fundraiser was just days away, and for the first time I felt ready to face whatever challenges it might bring. Because now, I knew who I was and what I wanted. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be more conversations, more explanations, more potential backlash. But with Sienna by my side, I felt ready to take on the world. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about how far I'd come since that fateful night I'd clicked on a dating profile. From confused and closeted to out and proud. It wasn't the life I'd always imagined for myself, but as I closed my eyes, I knew it was the life I was meant to live. The night of the fundraiser arrived in a whirlwind of sequins, champagne, and nervous energy. I stood at the entrance of the transformed ballroom, watching as guests in 1,920 seconds inspired attire filtered in. My heart was pounding, but for once, it wasn't just pre-event jitters. "You look incredible," Sienna whispered in my ear, appearing beside me in a shimmering gold dress that hugged her curves. Her camera hung around her neck, ready to capture the evening's memories. I smoothed down my own silver flapper dress, trying to calm my nerves. "So do you. Are we really doing this?" Sienna's hand found mine, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "Together," she said softly. We'd decided to make our relationship public at the event. It felt right, somehow, to embrace our truth at a celebration of love and acceptance. But as I scanned the crowd, noting the influential faces and potential donors, I felt a flicker of doubt. The evening progressed in a blur of introductions, speeches, and silent auctions. I was in my element, moving from group to group, ensuring everything ran smoothly. But every so often, I'd catch Sienna's eye across the room, and the world would narrow to just us. As the band struck up a lively Charleston, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to find Helen, our conservative client who'd stormed out of our last meeting. Caroline, she said, her voice clipped. I see you went ahead with the event despite our disagreement. I straightened my spine, ready for confrontation. Helen, No, let me finish, she interrupted. I've been watching you tonight. The way you've handled this event, the passion you've shown. I may not understand your lifestyle, but I can't deny your professional capabilities. I blinked, stunned. Thank you, Helen, that means a lot. She nodded curtly. Don't make me regret giving you a second chance. I expect nothing but excellence moving forward. As she walked away, I felt a mix of relief and pride. It wasn't acceptance, not really, but it was a start. The moment was short-lived, however. As I turned back to the party, I spotted my parents near the bar. My blood ran cold. I hadn't told them about Sienna yet, planning to have that conversation after the event. But here they were, chatting with my boss, who was gesturing in my direction with a proud smile. Before I could react, Sienna appeared at my side. Care, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. My parents, I managed to choke out. They're here. I haven't told them about us yet. Understanding dawned in Sienna's eyes. Do you want me to disappear for a bit? I considered it for a moment, tempted by the easy way out. But then I looked at Sienna, beautiful and strong beside me, and made a decision. No, I said firmly. No more hiding. Taking a deep breath, I led Sienna towards my parents. My mother spotted us first, her face lighting up. Caroline, darling, what a wonderful event. And is that? Sienna, my goodness, we haven't seen you in years. As my parents hugged Sienna, exclaiming over how she'd grown, I steeled myself for what came next. Mom, Dad, I said, my voice only slightly shaky. There's something I need to tell you. Sienna and I were together, as a couple. The silence that followed felt eternal. My father's brow furrowed in confusion, while my mother's smile froze in place. But you're not, my father started. Gay? I finished for him. I'm not sure what I am, Dad. All I know is that I love Sienna, and she loves me. My mother's eyes darted between us, understanding slowly dawning. Oh, she said softly. Oh, I see. What followed was an awkward, stilted conversation. My parents were clearly shocked, struggling to process this new information, but they didn't yell, didn't storm out. Instead, my mother hugged me tightly. We love you, Caroline, she whispered. We just want you to be happy. As they excused themselves to get some air, I felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. It wasn't the blow-up I'd feared, but it also wasn't the immediate acceptance I'd hoped for. Sienna's arm around my waist anchored me, reminding me that whatever came next, I wasn't alone. The rest of the night passed in a haze. We danced, we laughed, we raised an impressive amount for the charity. But underneath it all was a current of anticipation. The world knew about us now. There was no going back. As the last guests trickled out and the cleanup began, Sienna found me on the empty dance floor. Hey, she said softly. You okay? I looked at her, this woman who'd turned my world upside down in the best possible way. I'm terrified, I admitted, but also incredibly happy. Sienna smiled, pulling me close. Me too. As we swayed gently to the silence, I realized something. Coming out hadn't magically solved all our problems. There would be more difficult conversations, more explanations, more potential backlash. My relationship with my parents would need time and patience to fully heal. But for the first time in my life, I felt truly, authentically myself. And as Sienna's lips met mine in a soft kiss, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together. The fundraiser was over, but our story was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would lead us next. The weeks following the fundraiser were a whirlwind of emotions and adjustments. Sienna and I were out, proud, and happier than ever, but the world around us was still catching up. Each day brought new challenges, from curious coworkers to judgmental clients, but we faced them hand in hand. My parents, true to their word, were trying. They invited us over for dinner one Sunday, and though the conversation was stilted and my father couldn't quite meet Sienna's eyes, it was a start. My mother hugged Sienna goodbye, whispering, "Thank you for making our Caroline so happy." Work was another matter entirely. While most of my colleagues were supportive, there were whispers in the hallways, sideways glances in meetings. I tried to ignore them, focusing on the next big project, but it was hard not to feel like I was under a microscope. Just give them time, Sienna would say, her fingers intertwined with mine as we walked to lunch. They'll get used to us. And slowly they did. The whispers faded, replaced by genuine interest in our relationship. Even Helen, our once disapproving client, begrudgingly admitted that our work on the fundraiser had been exemplary. But just as things were settling into a new normal, life threw us another curveball. My boss called me into his office one afternoon, his face uncharacteristically serious. "Caroline," he began, "I've got some news. The New York office is launching a major LGBTQ initiative, and they want you to head it up." My heart leapt. It was an incredible opportunity, a chance to make a real difference. But then reality set in. New York, miles away from Corpus Christi, miles away from Sienna. "It's a 6-month contract to start," my boss continued, oblivious to my inner turmoil, "with the potential for permanent relocation if it goes well." I left his office in a daze, my mind racing. This was everything I'd ever worked for, a chance to take my career to the next level. But the thought of leaving Sienna, just when we'd finally found each other, made my chest ache. That night, as we curled up on my couch, I broke the news. Sienna listened quietly, her face unreadable. "You have to take it," she said finally, her voice soft but firm. "But what about us?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Sienna took my face in her hands, her green eyes boring into mine. "Caroline Mitchell, I've loved you for over half my life. 6 months apart isn't going to change that." We spent the next few weeks in a frenzy of preparation. Sienna helped me pack, her laughter filling my apartment as we argued over which hideous sweaters I absolutely needed to take to New York. We made plans for visits, promised nightly video calls, and tried not to think about the looming separation. The night before my flight, we lay tangled together in my bed, the room lit only by the soft glow of streetlights filtering through the curtains. "I'm scared," I admitted, my face buried in Sienna's neck. "Of what?" she asked, her fingers tracing patterns on my back. "Of losing you. Of losing us. What if this is too much?" Sienna shifted, propping herself up on one elbow to look at me. "Care, do you remember that summer we built a treehouse in your backyard?" I nodded, unsure where she was going with this. "We spent weeks on that thing, planning and building, and when it was finally done, you were too scared to climb up." I smiled at the memory. "You held my hand the whole way up." "Exactly," Sienna said, her eyes shining. "And I'm holding your hand now. This is just another treehouse, Care. Another adventure for us to tackle together." As her lips met mine, I felt a surge of love so strong it nearly overwhelmed me. This woman, who'd been my best friend, my first love, my partner in every sense of the word, believed in us enough for both of us. The next morning, as I stood at the airport security gate, Sienna pulled me into a fierce hug. "Go change the world, Caroline Mitchell," she whispered. "I'll be right here waiting when you get back." With one last kiss, I turned and walked through the gate, my heart heavy but my spirit light. As the plane took off, I looked out the window at the shrinking landscape of Corpus Christi. I was leaving behind everything I'd ever known, embarking on a new chapter of my life. But as I settled into my seat, I realized something. Home wasn't a place anymore. Home was Sienna's laugh, the feel of her hand in mine, the way her eyes lit up when she looked at me. And that home would always be with me, no matter how many miles separated us. As the plane soared towards New York and my new adventure, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. Sienna and I had overcome so much already. Distance was just another challenge to conquer. I pulled out my phone, smiling at the background photo of Sienna and me at the fundraiser. Whatever came next, I knew we'd face it together. Because that's what we did. That's what we'd always done. With a deep breath, I turned off my phone and looked towards the future. New York City, here I come. 6 months flew by in a whirlwind of meetings, conferences, and late nights at the office. New York was everything I dreamed of and more, the energy, the opportunities, the feeling that I was making a real difference. But despite my professional success, there was an emptiness that no amount of acclaim could fill. Sienna and I did our best to stay connected. Nightly video calls, surprise care packages, and weekend visits when we could manage them. But it wasn't the same as waking up together, sharing quiet moments over coffee, or spontaneous dance parties in the kitchen. As my contract neared its end, I found myself at a crossroads. The New York office had offered me a permanent position, complete with a corner office and a salary that made my eyes water. It was everything I'd ever worked for, the culmination of years of ambition and drive. But then there was Sienna, patient, loving Sienna, who'd supported me every step of the way, who'd never once complained about the distance or the missed calls when work ran late, who still looked at me like I hung the moon, even through the grainy pixels of a video chat. The night before I had to give my answer, I sat on the windowsill of my tiny New York apartment, staring out at the glittering skyline. I thought about the life I could have here, the prestige, the challenges, the constant buzz of the city that never sleeps. And then I thought about Corpus Christi, about lazy Sunday mornings with Sienna, about the way the Gulf breeze carried the scent of salt and possibilities, about a love that had weathered time, distance, and self-discovery. With shaking hands, I dialed Sienna's number. "Hey you," she answered, her voice warm even through the phone. "How's the Big Apple treating you tonight?" "See," I said, my voice catching. "I've made my decision." There was a pause, heavy with anticipation. "And?" "I'm coming home," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "To you, if you'll have me." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for so long that I feared the call had dropped. Then finally, I heard a choked sob. "Always," Sienna managed. "I'll always have you, Caroline Mitchell." 2 weeks later, I stepped off the plane in Corpus Christi, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and nerves. As I scanned the crowd at baggage claim, I spotted her, Sienna, holding a ridiculous sign that read, "Welcome home, Care Bear," in glittery letters. I dropped my bags and ran, not caring who was watching. Sienna caught me in her arms, spinning me around as we both laughed and cried. "I can't believe you're really here," she murmured, her forehead resting against mine. "Believe it," I said, pulling her in for a kiss that made my toes curl. "I'm not going anywhere." As we drove home, our home now, Sienna filled me in on everything I'd missed. She'd started her own photography business, specializing in LGBTQ weddings and events. My old company had offered me a position heading up their new diversity initiative, and our friends had planned a welcome home party for the weekend. "I hope you don't regret it," Sienna said softly as we pulled into the driveway. "Giving up New York." I turned to her, taking in the face I'd missed so much these past 6 months. Sigh. I didn't give up anything. I gained everything. That night, as we lay tangled together in our bed, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in months. The New York skyline might have been replaced by the gentle lapping of Gulf waves, but I'd never felt more at home. "What are you thinking?" Sienna asked, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on my skin. I smiled, pulling her closer. "I'm thinking that this is just the beginning." And it was. Over the next few years, Sienna's business flourished, becoming the go-to photographer for LGBTQ couples across Texas. I threw myself into my new role, working to make our company a leader in diversity and inclusion. We had our struggles, of course. My parents took time to fully accept our relationship, and we faced our share of prejudice and misunderstanding. But through it all, we had each other. On our 3rd anniversary, I took Sienna back to the karaoke bar where we'd reunited. As she belted out the same song that had caught my attention that fateful night, I felt my heart swell with love and gratitude. This wasn't the life I'd planned for myself all those years ago. It was better, richer, filled with a love I never knew I was missing until I found it. As Sienna finished her song to raucous applause, she jumped off the stage and into my arms. "I love you, Caroline Mitchell," she whispered. "I love you too, Sienna Ray," I replied, pulling her in for a kiss that promised a lifetime of adventures to come. We might not have had the glamour of New York or the prestige of a corner office, but we had each other, and a love that had overcome time, distance, and society's expectations. And in the end, that was all that mattered. As we left the bar hand in hand, I knew that whatever challenges life threw our way, we'd face them together. Because that's what we did. That's what we'd always do. And I wouldn't have it any other way.